We know how you want it to be.
Welcome to the Grounds for Sculpture.
Things are bigger than you think, and you want to go back to New Jersey, but sometimes New Jersey's not as big as you think. The city is like a garden, and if you give it time, it'll grow.
This is the first in the series exploring the steps sculptors take in creating their wonderful work.
And sometimes these things are deeper than you think. No one here is not on your side. I think you know. Hold on.
I'm your host, Rich Butterflies.
Hold on. See today your own.
In the next 3 episodes, we will be in New York City at the Carole Feuerman studio.
We know exactly what you want, but sometimes what you have is more than you think. And you want to go back to New Jersey, but sometimes New Jersey's not as big as you think. When I go.
To be summer and winter. The water was going to be coming out of the shower, and the sculpture would be appearing to be in the shower, a real shower. And he was going to call it maybe employees only or after work, after hours. He wasn't sure. Seward said he wanted a girl in the shower with long blonde hair and soap suds. And I took pictures of a model posing in the position that Seward wanted and washing her foot. And I showed these pictures to Seward, and he wanted me to go ahead and do this sculpture. I then had the model come in, and I cast her in this same position. I'll turn this around so you can see all the sides. This is unfinished, and as it turned out, I had to use 3 different models to do this piece because the beautiful pose in the back, which has a lot of curves to it, the position could not be held by this model, and I had to get a young girl to pose for me, leaning over, all the way over like this, with a twist in her body. And it took 8 of us to do this sculpture of her. You know, as we'd put on the silicone on her body, it kept falling down forward. So someone had to actually hold the silicone up. Someone else had to hold the girl up. And we cast her front and back from here to here. And what we didn't realize is she had on a piercing on her belly button, and the mold got stuck to her belly button. So we flipped her on her back, and it took all of us. I had to cut this mold off her. But I think it's well worth it because we have a beautiful piece. So the back is one person, and the sculpture is this model that you see here. I'm in the process of building her head, sculpting her head, and I'm going to be sculpting hair, and the hair is going to trickle down and fall forward, and some of the hair is going to go back like that. Her hand is still not on, as you can see. I'm positioning it. It won't wind up exactly as you see it on this picture, because when she actually did the pose for me, her pinky finger was up, which is quite lovely. The pinky raised. So a lot of this casting gets done, and then the front has to be put together with the back. And then all the parts of the body get sculpted in where the casting wasn't. I usually just cast certain sections. And in this picture you can see the head was done in one casting, the arm in another, the hand in another, the leg from here to here in another. And these separate castings were joined, and right now I'm chasing it. And these are some of the tools that I chase with. And I'd say a lot of this is also sanding. I'm going to be taking this bump out of her arm, because the arm, and I said the torso, are two separate people, so I have to make the whole thing work. A great deal of this particular sculpture was cast because Seward wants it extremely lifelike. But in many of my sculptures, they're not cast at all. They're sculpted, and through very realistic painting, they're made to look super real. I paint veins, I paint freckles, and all those things get put back in. And people love brown spots, they love freckles, they love blemishes. Okay, so when I posed the model in the position that I wanted her, I built a stand, as you can see, for her to have her leg exactly in the right position. And I put the model on this platform, the actual model, not the sculpture, but the model, in this exact position with her foot up like this, just like the picture. And the first casting was her foot like up to here. And I cast that with something called, it's a 2-part silicone. And then I cast her hand. And this is the silicone. And the silicone will not have any shape unless it has a jacket called a mother mold. And the jacket has to have the exact shape, takes the shape of the silicone. And you can see the fingers over here. And that's silicone body casting directly from life. Here is the face. I do 3 faces of every model. Hopefully I don't have to do a 4th. And I try to get the expression that I'm looking for. I lay in resin, which was laid into this casting, as you can see. Then first thing I do is I take this jacket off and I ruin the jacket rather than ruin the casting inside. So I slit it so that comes off. Then I peel off the silicone. And then I have another portrait of the same girl, and as you can see, she was smiling way too much for the seriousness of this piece. A lovely smile, but not for what I needed. So I redid her face. Actually, I had to cast her face 3 times till I got this really beautiful expression. And even with this expression, if you can see on this side of her face, there's a great deal of distortion in through here. And her ear is kind of sunk in the wrong position. So this ear will have to come off. Her face will have to be built from here back. I have to sculpt a head because I never bothered to do her head. I just wanted to capture her face. With this arm, you got a shoulder here and a shoulder here, so this all has to be worked on in through here. I mean, it's not like 100% thing. When you're casting, you have to sculpt it to get it the way you want it. And but I'm pretty happy about it so far. It's going to be a really nice piece. After this is finished, it's going to go to a foundry for mold making, and they're going to have to cut certain areas, like in through here. They'll have to cut the piece. Once again, they'll have to cut the torso, because you could never get mold making materials in here in these tiny little areas. So they'll cut it up in sections, and they'll put silicone on it again and another jacket, and make a mold of each section of this model, the way I made of each section of the human who posed for it. And into that they'll put wax in a process called lost wax. The wax sits in a ceramic shell casting, and the shell casting has channels. And these channels are filled with poured molten hot metal, poured into the channels. The channels lead into the cavity, and the wax melts due to the heat of the bronze, and the wax pours out of a channel on the bottom, leaving the cavity filled with bronze. And the bronze then gets put back together, gets assembled into the shape. Once again, there's chasing, because the bronze is going to have sections where it was joined, and those have to be sanded and made invisible. And then when I have the piece in bronze, it will get patinaed and made to look very lifelike. After that, it gets installed on location with a shower that's been constructed with water, summer and winter. I'm going to be making clothes that this girl took off out of bronze, slippers, a radio, and Seward has asked Carole Simon to sing a special tune for the girl in the shower, to hum a special tune, and it will be engineered so that the piece is humming. It should be pretty interesting. It's going to be a big, wonderful commission and grants for sculpture. You can just imagine me in this thing. So this is the way I would look. I'd have the silicone on me, and then I'd have these bandages with of course I put these sticks on to support it. It gets kind of heavy. So if the model is in any uncomfortable position or leaning over, it is hard work to be under this. Then I have to take this entire thing off the model, and I put this mold on the table. And I'm just going to put a head mold on the table. Let's assume, see this face mold. Let's assume this was on my face. This gets filled with resin. And this is the resin that it got filled with. And the resin I put in a few layers of resin called gel coat. And then I reinforce those layers with a fiberglass mat. And that's what this is. I have a little bit more cloth to put in a couple of sections over here, and then it gets taken out. I pull this back, rip this back, like that. And I'll just take off a little bit of this to show you. Usually use some tools. see around here. You can see the beginning of an arm here. Elizabeth, there's some tools on the table there. Maybe you can bring them over to me. There's some tools. There's a plier on the table or something. Used to be anyway. Yeah. Thanks. I always call this Christmas. Because after all the hard work, it's wonderful to see what we have. This is a career for strong people.
You are a brilliant child. The things you used to make, the clay is nothing molded.
This is called a waste mold, because as you can see, by the time I get it off, it
You
won't be
can
useful.
see the light, but can you see the light? Can you hold it? Why are you so enamored with your shadow? I have been to the garden, nothing grows. I have left the garden dirty. I wish that I don't know. And it's hard to say I love you when you don't. Why are you so enamored with your shadow and cold? Why are you so enamored with your shadow and cold?
This is when the artist says to their assistant,
You're in your office space. You lost your happiness, 'cause you define success with what you don't have. Well, I have many things, but none of what I bring can bring you back your sense of living. Why are you so enamored with your shadow? Oh, 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 You are a brilliant child. The things you used to make, the clay is nothing till you mold it. The dark is beautiful when you can see the light. Oh, can you see the light? Can you hold it? Why are you so enamored with your shadow and cold? I have been to the garden where nothing grows. I have left that garden in dirty clothes. I wish that I knew, but I don't know. And it's hard to say I love you when you don't.
Very fragile. Scratches crazy.
Why are you so enamored with your shadow and cold?
Torso of the girl growing out of the tree. Like that. Okay, I can live with this forever. Lovely. This girl has a lot of nerves. You know, in the studio, I have the maquette now in pieces. So if you're in the city, you can shoot the maquette again. If you want to shoot, it's pretty cool looking. This is bronze also.
Is it?
Yeah. This. This is Carole Simon. She did a special song for the piece. Yeah. Yes, really. Yeah, she's singing alongside with the piece. This came out really good. Yeah.
Something similar before that had things hanging on the wall. Were they real towels on the wall?
No.
They're bronze too?
And now I'm making beach balls out of bronze for a show called, it's going to have a swimming pool with pieces in the swimming pool. It's going to be really cool. In April and May in Fort Belvedere.
We know how you want it to be, but sometimes these things are bigger than you think. And you want to go back to New Jersey, but sometimes New Jersey's not as big as you think. The city is large.